Chapter 46 links between the macroeconomic problems. So, learning intention, learning objectives. Today, we will be focusing on the internal and the relationship between the internal and the external value of money, and we will learn the link between the balance of payment and the inflation. So, internal and the external value of money. Book definition: like the internal value, what money buys domestically, and external value, exchange rate, are closely connected. So if a country has a higher inflation, so demand for its products will fall. Definitely, like domestic, if inflation is increasing, so people will not prefer the domestic product, they will prefer the imported products because they think that they have the same price as the imported products, so it's better to buy the imported products. Foreigners buy fewer exports, demand for currency falls, locals buy more imports, supply of currency rises. Foreigners buy more fewer exports, like if your product is expensive, inflation is increasing, so rest of the world will see your product is very expensive and they will switch to your competitor. They will export goods from other countries. The cycle of depreciation will extend, like a fall in exchange rate, because people are focusing on imports, so it will create more problem for the economy. Import costs, a lower exchange rate makes imports more expensive, which drives up the domestic inflation in the country. Example: the value of peso fell significantly against the US dollar. This drove up the price of the imported raw material and worsening the inflation. So when raw material has become expensive for the firms, so firms will make expensive goods and services. They will produce expensive goods and services, so people will see more higher prices. Balance of payments and inflation. If a country's inflation rate rises above its competitors, its price competitiveness will fall. Definitely, if a country is selling expensive goods and services, so other countries will switch to the competitor. So exports, what will happen to the exports? Revenue will decline as goods become too expensive. What will happen to imports? Expenditures rises as foreign goods seem cheaper, and it will increase the gap between deficit. Can a surplus cause inflation? Yes, it can cause inflation. Like increase in current account surplus can cause inflation because net exports increase the aggregate demand. Investment exception: if money is flowing through multinational companies and they are investing in your country, so it will increase the competition, bringing more technology and the productivity, which will be beneficial for the society and reduce the inflation. But if consumption is increasing, focusing more on imports or focusing more on consumption, so it will increase the aggregate demand, hence the demand pull inflation. Growth and inflation. A high rate of inflation is likely to reduce the country's economic growth rate. A high rate of inflation is likely to reduce the country's economic growth rate. Why? Because net exports will fall, domestic goods become too expensive, uncertainty rises, discourages business investment, because they will see there is no benefit in investing because prices are fluctuating a lot. Goods versus bad growth. So the relationship depends on the type of the growth. If the growth is the demand pull growth, like accompanied by the inflation, so that is the good growth. If it is a supply side growth, can reduce the inflation by increasing the output efficiently. So we have to be careful. Like economic growth can be driven by different factors with different outcomes for the trade. Like export led growth, like growing by selling to the world, this improves the balance of payments. Consumer led growth, like growing because citizens are spending, and this often worsen the balance of payment due to more imports. So export led growth is beneficial, and consumer led growth is not beneficial, harmful for the economy. Short run versus long run. Short run, like there is a inverse relationship. To grow, firms may purchase raw materials and capital goods from other countries, temporarily increase the imports and worsening the trade balance in the short run, because firms want to buy the raw material from the other countries, which will increase the imports. In the long run, if the resulting higher output is exported, means these firms will export more, so the initial rise in imports may be matched or exceeded by later rise in exports. So this is how it will balance. The Philip curve. The trade-off. The Philip curve shows an inverse relationship between the unemployment rate and the inflation rate. So high unemployment is equals to low inflation. We will see the Philip curve in more detail. So the real world evidence, like historical data, Bill Phillips found a stable inverse relationship in the UK during 1861, between 1861 to 1957, and in the modern example 2019, inflation was low because of the high unemployment. Expectations and augmentative flip curve, like developed by monetarist. This theory suggests there is no trade-off in the long run. Key idea: you cannot permanently lower the unemployment just by accepting higher inflation. The curve becomes vertical line at the natural rate of unemployment. So how does unemployment returns to natural rate? Government increases the demand to lower unemployment, causing inflation. So workers realize prices are higher and demand higher wages. Inflation. So let's see the Philip curve here, the inflation rate and the unemployment rate. So what do we notice here in the Philip curve? That this is the Philip curve, which we can see a curve, and when inflation is 5%, the unemployment rate is 3%. So there is an inverse relationship. We can see if inflation rate decreases to 2%, the unemployment will increase to 6%. So this is the relationship of the Philip curve.